No let-ups for Arizona, and what are the keys to beating ASU?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Your team every day. The show is brought to you today by Gametime. Download the Gametime app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, now, Arizona ASU, the game is here. Now, Arizona, these two teams are going in wildly different directions. Listen, ASU kind of stinks. They're when they're healthy, they're not bad. But the problem is they also just don't really get better under Bobby Hurley. And I think that's a little bit of the issue is that Hurley's teams just don't get better. And Arizona is getting better and getting better rapidly. So a couple things that we need to talk about first are what are the keys for Arizona in this game? The keys for Arizona are actually just playing your game. And by playing your game, I mean doing exactly what you have been doing to this point, where you've got Tobe Awaka, who's absolutely destroying people. Continue to do that. Being incredibly active on the boards, being incredibly active with what he's doing has been very, very good. And honestly, you watch him and he's almost to the point now where it kind of feels like he knows that he can take some games over, and he's trying to take those games over. I think that's what's fun. That's what's exciting about watching this new Tobe Awaka. But the problem too with ASU is that they're just not very well coached. And I think when you talk about them not being very well coached, I think a big problem is Bobby Hurley just kind of lets them run just kind of has them go out there and just kind of throws the ball around there. That to me is not the way to be conducive to success. Now you look up and down the roster, we got some players that we obviously need to talk about a little bit here, and we're going to be talking about Caleb Love and Joson Sanon first. Now, a lot of Arizona fans do not like Caleb Love. I get it. He can be maddening at times. I like Caleb Love. I think he's a great dude. And I think when he's on, I think he's about as good a guard as there is in the country. But I get it. I get the frustrations with Caleb because, again, he is far from perfect. But the people that want Joson Sanon continue to amuse me because there's really no rationalization for it. Is he a better set shooter? Cool. Yes. But watching him, he can't defend at all. He doesn't really do anything else. And he's kind of weak. Again, he could be good in the future. He's got some talent, no doubt. But these people that are thinking that Arizona would be better with Joson Sanon, I don't see it. Plus, Sanon's been hurt a ton. So, I mean, that's the one I just don't get. And I think those are a lot of people, too, that just don't like Caleb Love. The other one, too, that I don't really get are the folks that are saying that they want Jamari Phillips in there. And I like Jamari Phillips. Jamari Phillips is averaging 1 point per game or a half point per game, whatever the case may be. Those dudes just aren't as good as Caleb Love. There's really no other way around it. So that's going to be a huge game for Arizona. And can Caleb Love really break through? I think that's a big part of this too. Can he break through? Because if he can break through and kind of hopefully that game's a springboard for the rest of the season, I think that Arizona is going to be in some fairly nice shape. Now, when I watch this Arizona team, though, the one thing I think of, though, is that you need Caleb Love to continue to be good. And if Caleb Love can continue to be good, Arizona is going to be in really good shape. Watching him, the thing that I've always liked about him, and where I think that you just either have or you don't, is that next shot for Caleb Love is always going in. And I think that's a rare quality for a lot of players is to have somebody who no matter what whatever they think is happening, that next shot is going in. And I think that's something that that's a big thing. So there's obviously that. Now, looking at from the ASU perspective, Joson Sanon, I don't want to minimize because Joson Sanon can play. But this idea that he's Kevin Durant or whatever is just not. And again, Caleb Love's a better player. I'll take Caleb Love every single day of the week. Now, the other one to keep an eye on is Jaden Quaintance. Quaintance is someone that he is large. He is probably the best. He is probably the best shot blocker, rebounder in college basketball. This is going to be an interesting matchup for Arizona. This is probably not a great game for Trey Townsend. Most games really aren't. But at the same time, Quaintance can play. Quaintance isn't bad at all. And I would imagine that he will be at a better school next year. We will see how that plays out. But Quaintance is good. Arizona is going to have to be ready for him on the glass and be able to make sure that they can keep him in check, because again, he's a good basketball player and he's a next level type guy. You watch him, so much of what he does is based off energy. You're going to get 10 points, you're going to get 12 rebounds, you're going to get 2 to 3 blocks. You're going to get a bunch of different things in there, and he is going to be he's going to be the spearhead of a lot of those ones. But again, a good basketball player. Arizona's going to have to be ready. He's someone too where you watch him and you're like, all right. I mean, yeah, Arizona's going to have to be ready. You got Henry Vasar. That's somebody that they can throw at him. After Henry Vasar, then you've obviously got Tobe Awaka, the man of girth. Trey Townsend. Who knows? Maybe even see a little bit of E-Man in this game and see how that one plays out. But watching ASU earlier in the season, I think that people probably thought they were going to be a little bit better than they really were. They are not. They're just not that good. And again, when you watch them, you also know for a fact too that Arizona should just win this game. That's kind of where I'm at with this. Arizona should win this game. We're going to talk a little bit later on in the show what a win would mean. But let's talk a little bit more about some of these players. Sean Phillips is another one. Sean Phillips generally isn't good, but Sean Phillips played really well. He's another big man that looks the part. And not only does he look the part, he looks like a guy that, could really play basketball, but he's just not that good. He's just not really that good. And I think that's so when you watch Sean Phillips, that's another guy. Arizona just needs to be able to just get in there and be able to be ready to rock and roll. If Arizona's ready to rock and roll, Arizona should be fine. Plus, there's going to be more. We know how this thing all works out. There's going to be more Arizona fans up there than there's going to be ASU fans. ASU fans don't show up to this stuff because they know their product stinks. Now, there's a couple other guys too. BJ Freeman, keep an eye on him. 12 points, 4 rebounds, etc. I'm just kind of reading from the stat sheet. Adam Miller isn't bad, but he's also not good. Bashir Jihad is the one guy who, when you watch him, he looks like he should be better than he actually is. He's long, he's lanky, he can do some things, but he's also just not very good. You watch BYU game was a perfect example. He was like 1 of 8 from the field with 7 or 8 turnovers, but he made a lot of free throws. BYU, the Colorado game, excuse me, but. Long, lanky. But again, that's Bobby Hurley's teams in a nutshell. Amir Ali, another one. Long, lanky, but they're just not well coached. They're just not going to get that much better. And I think that's just kind of where we are at with when it comes to all of this, is that they're just not that good. And Arizona, then, what do I want to see from Arizona in this one? Well, first of all, we talked about it. I want to see Caleb Love. I want to see Caleb Love continue to improve, because Caleb Love gives this team a much higher upside than basically anybody else that Arizona has. He gives them just a much higher upside. So I need that to continue. And then Jaden Bradley in this game, I need Jaden to just continue to be a pest. The great thing about Jaden Bradley is that he's just a pest. And watching him, just continue to do that, because ASU doesn't have great ball handlers. Not only do they not have great ball handlers, they also don't have guys that can really command a game. Jaden Bradley can do all of that and more. He is also a player that he's just a player that Arizona, I think, fans can rely on at this point. It's exciting to watch what he's been able to do. Now, looking ahead then, ADO. ADO, listen, there's going to be some games that aren't for ADO. If it's against a pressure defense, probably not going to be the game for ADO. But against ASU, where everybody just kind of, just kind of does whatever they want, this is a game that he can win. This is a game that he can take advantage of. I expect ADO to play well in this game. And I think Tommy Lloyd probably expects ADO to play well in this game as well. ADO, again, I know he's another one, kind of a lightning rod, but ADO's got his attributes. ADO's got his ability to be able to make some plays. I think ADO is going to be just fine in this game. Also, I think ADO is going to hit some threes. Now, again, people are like, well, you can't play ADO. Yes, you can play ADO. You've just got to play him in certain situations. And if you play him in certain situations, then you're going to be okay. Now, the next guy that I think that Arizona fans need to know about then in this one is Carter Bryant. Carter Bryant and what exactly he does bring to the table. But first, game time, my friends. Game time. Here's the deal. Attending NFL games is an experience like no other. The energy, the excitement, and the connection with other fans is unmatched. This is true. And I remember the thrill of seeing my favorite team clinch a playoff win live. It's a memory I'll never forget. Here's the deal, though. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. At Gametime, you want to be on there because, again, the Super Bowl's here. Check it out. You might even get a pretty good deal. That's what Gametime does. And it's not just sports. It's concerts. It's a lot of different things. Check out Gametime. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day, your team every day. All right, now let's talk a little bit about Arizona and Carter Bryant. Carter Bryant's really, really good, obviously. I think the thing that a lot of people are surprised by, including myself, is how well Carter Bryant can shoot, or how well Carter Bryant can shoot. And not only can Carter Bryant shoot well, it's not a fluke. It's not one of those things where he makes 6 and you're like, he's really not that good of a shooter. He is that good of a shooter. And he can do more than that, but that's what kind of Arizona needs him to do. And he's been great in that role. Now, maybe Tommy Lloyd is trying to hide him a little bit, and maybe that's the plan, but I don't know that that's the case. But Carter Bryant, the way that when he plays like that, he's really, really difficult to handle. And I think with watching this, you can also tell too that there's a next level that he's going to get to. Now, I don't know that next level is going to be this year. I think honestly that next level is probably going to be in the future, and hopefully that's a second year at Arizona with Carter Bryant, like we talked about. With he's a dude who is how do I put this? He is right now he's probably the 25th pick in the draft. If he were to come back for another year, I think you're probably looking at somebody who's going to be like the 7th pick in the draft. He's that good. Instead of making dollars, he could make cents, as the people say. But he also is probably a first-round pick. You're hoping that you can get a second year out of him. If you're Arizona and you can get a second year out of him, then it's all systems go, because he's a difference maker. Plus, as we all know, comes from a great family, really, really good kid, and somebody that I think we're, maybe take it for granted a little bit here. But if you get that second year out of him, he's going to be a monster. And the other thing too, defensively, is that if he gets beat, he can still block shots. He can still do some other things that are very, very good for Arizona. And that's what I think you're looking for out of Carter Bryant. But that's going to be a fascinating one to see it play out. But Carter's that dude. Like I said, when Carter is playing well, Arizona is on another level. And it's kind of like with the Caleb Love situation. If Caleb Love's playing well, Arizona is very difficult for any team out there to beat. They are that good. Now, up front then, obviously, with KJ Lewis is another one. When KJ Lewis is kind of being that facilitator and getting downhill, he's great. My problem always with KJ is just when he's trying to float around the perimeter and trying to cross people up and do things like that. That ain't his game. He was blessed with a lot of different skills. Being able to get to the hoop, uh, coming down and crossing people up isn't one of them. Power dribbles, getting downhill to the hoop, getting into the lane. That's what he was blessed with. And he is really, really darn good at it when he does that. He's just got to stick to his game. If he sticks to his game like that, he's going to be very, very good for Arizona. But that's what he's got to do. He's got to stick to his game. And then Arizona's, I think, going to be better for the wear. Is that a term or whatever that term is? Arizona's going to be far better off for it. And again, the assists, he's really good. I need that to continue. I need that to continue with with Arizona. I need him to be able to get into the lane and continue to assist the basketball. Watching him, he is that's what he is. He's a jack of all trades, and that is a good thing. That is definitely not a put down, but he is definitely a jack of all trades. Don't shoot threes, but overall, somebody that is really, really impacts winning. And as he's figured out his role, he's gotten much, much better for Arizona. Now, the thing about this, too, is that you just can't have let-ups. Arizona got a huge win against Iowa State, obviously. That was a massive win. There's no way to really quantify that. Excuse me. It was a win where it was a win. It was kind of a game change or kind of a season defining win in a weird way because now you've got that win. You've got a win against a top 5 team in the country and a team that, let's be honest, is probably going to be one at the very worst, a 2 seed. So you've now got that one going for you. So you don't want the let up. I think that game at BYU is going to be difficult. I really do. Playing BYU, you've got a team, that's the game that's Monday and it's a late game. That's a game that I don't love Arizona's chances in. It's a tough place to play, and BYU isn't great. They don't stink, but they're not great. That's going to be a tough place to play. In Arizona, though, that's going to be the one that against Arizona State. That's the one you got to get. That's the one that you got to get. You're 9-1. Then you got a little bit of room for margin for error because then after that, you got your Texas Techs, you got your Texas Techs, you got your Kansas States. Kansas State's on the road. That's a game that you should win. But at the same time, Texas Tech is also a team that you should be able to get that win because that is at home. Texas Tech isn't bad, but this is the game, though. Get to 9-1. At that point, you're halfway through the conference, and you start saying, "All right, worst case scenario here, you want to be 15-5. Go 6-4 through the rest of the way." But I think your better hope is 16-4. Why can't you be 16-4 if you're 9-1 in conference? And I think that's something that we need to talk about. That's something that we need to get to here in just a second. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day, your team every day. That's the thing, though. If Arizona goes to 9-1, why can't you be at that stage? Why can't you be something like 16-4 in conference? Now, again, you got some games coming up that are going to probably be losses. I don't give you much chance at all to beat Iowa State in Hilton Coliseum. That game's just a disaster all the way around because that team doesn't lose there. They're going to be amped and they're going to be wanting revenge, and they're really, really good. Plus, they're probably going to be fully healthy at that time. So I don't give Arizona much of a chance in that game. You got Houston coming to Tucson. It's a game that you got to get. Now, again, Houston's awesome. Houston's probably one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country, but Houston is also beatable. You've seen them play not well against UCF. You've seen them also struggle against Kansas. Houston under Kelvin Sampson is always going to be incredibly tough defensively, but there's also going to be lapses. There's also going to be games where they just can't score the basketball, and I think that's what you're hoping for if you're Arizona. Now, the problem in that game is somebody like Trey Townsend is going to be very much out of place because Houston's big, physical, and they play really, really hard. That's generally not a recipe for a Trey game. But overall, though, this is also a team that I think Arizona can beat at home. Then you got Baylor on the road. Baylor's turned out to kind of just not be very good. So that's a game Arizona can get. I'm not saying they will, but that's a game that Arizona could get. You've also got Kansas at that state or at that point. Kansas is definitely not near what we thought they were going to be, but it is going to be senior day. Winning in Lawrence on senior day is going to be very difficult. But again, that's not an insurmountable one. The only game I look at on the schedule and I say there's really no chance is that Iowa State game, just because of where it is, because of what happened here in McHale, and I think they're going to obviously be out for revenge. But I think 16-4 should be your barometer at that point. If you're 9-1, you want to be able to go 7-3 in your last 10 games, and I don't know why you can't, because again, you've got winnable games. BYU is a winnable game. Tech at home is a winnable game. Kansas State on the road is a winnable game. You've got Baylor. That's a winnable game. You've got a lot of winnable games that you can continue to be able to chalk up. So we'll see. As far as a prediction, I'm going Arizona 78, ASU 67. I think Arizona takes care of business. Now, a couple football notes. Myron Robinson, Arizona has a 4-star player in its class in football. Arizona needed this on the defensive side. One thing that I think this staff showed before the other teams started poaching all the players, like your Terry Sheltons, etc., was that they knew they were very, very good at being able to pick out what were the good things, what were the bad things. And again, somebody like a Shelton, a Toncora, yes, they didn't end up here, Sean Robinson, but Arizona was on them before, and they kind of figured things out. I think they do a fairly good job of scouting. Robinson's a nice one. Again, Arizona, especially at that linebacker position, you're going to need some dudes in there. You're going to need some guys in there that can play and that can play immediately. And I think that you're really hoping that Robinson is that guy. If Robinson's that guy, Arizona's obviously in pretty good shape then. But because again, obviously you lose Manu, you got Tay Brown coming back, you got some other guys, but Robinson's I think got a little bit of a next level upside. The defense is going to continue to be a work in progress. You got to continue to fill those holes, and if you continue to fill those holes, then I think that you're in better shape. But overall, we're going to find out. This is a kind of a make or break year for Brent Brennan. And he's done a good job of getting players out in the community. He's done a really good job of, I think, of establishing who's who. But again, now you got to win, because after last season, you don't really have a margin for error. And I think that is a little bit of the dilemma. You just don't. You pretty much gave up that margin for error. That's obviously not a great thing. So. There's obviously that offensive. All right, then. So tomorrow, then, or next day, we're going to be talking about Arizona ASU. Obviously, hopefully, we're talking on the post game about a win. That would be very, very nice for Arizona. Go and be 9-1 in conference again. Because the schedule is about to get tough. You got to continue to stack these wins. You got to continue to beat the teams that you should, because you're going to have some games that are going to be very, very tough down the road, and we already talked about that. So you got to continue to push this, and if you beat ASU, you're going to be ranked as well. You'll probably be somewhere around 17, something like that, and hopefully you can continue to push that. Remember, Arizona was 4-5 at one point, and people were saying that they didn't look like a tournament team. Well, now Arizona's clearly a tournament team, and I think it's about getting greedy. I think it's about getting to that 5 seed and continuing to push that up. Maybe sneak another win in here or two. You maybe beat Houston, and that resume starts looking even better, because you're going to have some opportunities there. And I think that's what's exciting about this. Tommy Lloyd knows what he's doing. I think that this is very fair to say at this point. The people that didn't, I don't know what you're really looking at, because his track record obviously is good. There's things that you can be frustrated by. But overall, Tommy Lloyd is somebody that knows what he is doing when it comes to coaching basketball. But as always, very, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day, your team every day. Again, I'm going Arizona. I'm going to pick them to beat ASU. I'm going 78-69. And I think that we're going to be sitting here talking about a big Arizona win and what that means then going into that BYU game on Monday, which is also going to be somewhat of a must win. But on that note, though, have a great rest of your Thursday, and we will talk with you soon.